We are now well into June, and I should have done this earlier, but better late than never. I am taking you on a garden tour today. Everything is looking lush and green, and the growing season has finally hit its stride. I am transitioning from spring vegetables and crops to summer ones, so I want to show you what I've got going on. Let's go. My kitchen garden is comprised of 5 main raised beds. I have 4 main potager beds and a 5th herb and garlic bed. These 4 beds here also hold my pea trellis tunnel in between, and I've just added a new water feature here at the end of the tunnel as a focal point. I will be doing another video to show you how to make one. It is surprisingly easy. Let's take a closer look at the 4 main potager beds. I have configured the beds to about 4 by 10 feet, and that makes them very accessible for accessing on both sides of the beds. And I have left space as a pathway in between that is wide enough for myself and a wheelbarrow. The 2 front beds of my kitchen garden are bordered with this gorgeous alyssum, and this is a garden multitasker. The flowers attract pollinators and beneficial insects to the garden, and they serve as a living mulch. And I also particularly love them because of the gentle fragrance that you can smell as you walk through the garden. This bed here I have recently swapped over from my spring crops to my warm weather, my summer crops. Now that it is June, the weather's warmer, the days are longer. I have several crops growing in this bed. I have my favorite kind of carrot, which is Napoli carrot. I have beets growing in behind. I have buttercream marigolds, which are going to be my second round of companion flower for this bed. And marigolds are another flower that I love to include in my food gardens because, like alyssum, they also attract pollinators, but marigolds have the additional benefit of being cut flowers, and it is so magical to be able to not just harvest your food from your beds, but cut flowers for the table as well. And marigolds hold very well in a vase. The buttercream marigolds are particularly gorgeous because of their creamy, soft yellow color. In behind the carrots, the beets, and the marigold, I am growing kohlrabi and lettuce, and I also have my tomatoes planted out as well. In the back side of the bed, I have taller plants and I have more cut flowers. Back here, I have cosmos and zinnias and dahlias. I have strategically planted these in the back of the bed so that they are not casting shadows on the food crops. So that is going to maximize growth and photosynthesis for the food. And these ones are going to provide more color as a backdrop for the bed. And like the marigolds, the cosmos, the zinnias, and the dahlias will also make gorgeous flower arrangements for our seed to harvest table. Now, as I'm making my way to the other front bed, I want to highlight the beauty of the 2 garden arbors that I have set between my raised beds. And this is where I do a lot of vertical growing. On these trellises, I will grow peas and beans and cucumbers. And these are metal trellises. They are very strong. They can hold a lot of weight. So I fill them as densely as possible with plants. Between these 2 arbors, I have about 80 pea plants growing right now. This second front potager bed is planted very similarly to the other one in that they form somewhat mirrors to each other for symmetry. So like the other one, this one is bordered with the gorgeous alyssum as well. It also has marigolds behind the alyssum, as well as cosmos, zinnias, and dahlias along the back. While the other bed has tomato plants, this one has peppers and cucumbers. The trellises, these bamboo trellises that are placed down the middle of the beds, which you saw in the last one as well, are here to provide visual interest and support for the plants. In between the pepper plants, I have more lettuce and kohlrabi. Now let's have a look at the rear beds here. I have strategically planted these with some of the larger crops, which include cabbages and kale. And towards the back, I also have sprouting broccoli and rainbow Swiss chard. Now these crops I have decided to place in the rear bed for a layering effect. I have more of my delicate crops in the front, and these ones are bolder and they take up more space. These purple cabbages, these are red acre cabbages, are gorgeous when they are full size. They have these deep purple glossy leaves that are quite striking. So not only are they delicious, they provide a focal point and visual interest as well. In front of those crops, I have leeks planted. I also have trellis panels at the back of the arbors to provide a bit of a visual screen, and that invites you into the garden so that you are curious about the bed behind, and it invites you to come and explore the back border. At the base of all of the corners of the arbor trellises are also flowers. They are zinnias and straw flowers. So when they are in full bloom, it will not just be a gorgeous tunnel filled with peas or beans. It will also be a tunnel of flowers too. As mentioned, this pond is a recent addition, and it's very intentionally at the end of the arches to provide visual interest and a focal point, and it also draws your eye farther into the garden. So this is a very important design element of the potager, even though it is slightly beyond. This is the last of the 4 main potager beds, and it is very similar to the previous one in that it has cabbages. It has the red acre cabbage alternating with the tiara cabbage. It also has purple sprouting broccoli, lettuce, kale. It has succession planted carrots. So you'll remember I have the Napoli ones, which are almost ready to harvest, and I have some younger seedlings in this bed, as well as onions. I have a garden visitor right now. What you just heard is one of my resident Stellar's jays. My Stellar's jays are what you might consider recurring characters on my Instagram page, and I guess now on YouTube too. Stellar's jays are the official bird of the province of British Columbia, which is where I live. Stellar's jays are members of the corvid family, which is the same family of birds as crows. They are incredibly smart, incredibly beautiful, but their song isn't what I would consider melodious. So those were my 4 main potager beds, which brings me to the last bed here, the last raised bed, and this is my herb and garlic bed. My herbs are very densely planted. I have organized them somewhat in the thriller, spiller, filler technique. I have oregano and thyme around the border. I've got the taller sage and dill in the back, and plenty of parsley and rosemary in the middle. you'll see that my multiplier onions are starting to flower, so they'll need to come out soon. I also have calendula in here to attract pollinators, and calendula is also an edible flower, so it is always included in my kitchen garden. On the other side of my herb bed are my garlic, and as you might see here, or might tell here, garlic is one of my specialties. I am what you might consider a garlic enthusiast. These are all Russian red garlic, which grows particularly well here in the Pacific Northwest with our cooler, mild conditions. And I would say that I have several dozen garlic heads planted in this section alone. My garden is an urban garden here in the Fraser Valley, so I need to be as conscious and economical about space as possible. So I am making the most of all of my beds and borders in trying to make them as multifunctional as possible. So behind my pottage, I have a border which stretches from one end of my garden to the other, and this is a mixed border. I have an emphasis on food, wildflowers, pollinator plants, and cut flowers in this bed. And where possible, I have chosen plants that serve as many roles as possible. So for example, this tree, instead of planting an ornamental deciduous tree, I have opted for a compact fig. This fig is called Little Ruby. It is not just suited for small spaces, it can grow well in containers as well. So this fig tree is incredibly productive this year. It has smaller figs than you would see typically for standard figs, say like Dessert King figs. And it's not the only tree that I have in this border, or fruit tree that I have in this border. I have not just the fig, but I have 2 apple trees as well. So I consider this somewhat of a mini orchard. And then on the other side, closer to my house, I have a mature cherry tree and pear tree too, as well as a pear tree in a container at the side of my house. As we move along the back border here, I also have a number of smaller fruits too. I have gooseberry and elderberry here, as well as a self-fertile standard kiwi called Jenny. So oftentimes when you are planting kiwi, you need to make sure that you have a male and female plant in order for there to be fertilization and fruit. This one is self-fertile. Same with the kiwi berry Isai. So if you have a small space, you might want to consider getting a self-fertile kiwi. I have 3 trellis panels along this back border here, and they are what is holding this kiwi plant, as well as the grapes on top. I have 3 mature grapevines. I have Interlaken, Vanessa, and an unidentified variety of grape. And these produce a substantial amount of fruit. They are very heavy, so these panels are excellent for keeping them in place and supporting them. And these panels are really good at forming a visual backdrop for my garden, but they also allow access from the back for harvesting. And because I don't let any space go to waste, at the base of these trellis panels I have pole beans planted, so they will fill the bottom of the trellis panels, as well as climbing squash. I have Jack B. Little Pumpkin, kabocha squash, and butternut squash. At the base I also have kabocha and butternut squash to tumble forward to. When it comes to choosing squash, I tend to go with winter squash, squash that stores well, and that extends my garden food through the fall and winter. In the border, I have a substantial number of flowers. So these are not just cut flowers, these are pollinator friendly wildflowers. My garden is a certified wildlife habitat, so I make extra effort to plan and plant for bees, butterflies, and other beneficial insects, as well as any other garden visitors in my urban area. This happens to be one of my favorite areas of the garden. This is my raspberry patch. Raspberries are my favorite berries, so I have made plenty of space dedicated to them. I have everbearing, fall-bearing, and golden raspberries within this bed. I also have rhubarb planted at the base. I am a huge fan of rhubarb, and I have a couple of very large rhubarb plants too. I'm going to save the greenhouse for its own video because I believe that it deserves to shine all on its own. I'm going to show you one more space in my backyard, and I'm going to have to save the front yard for another day. When you are gardening in urban and suburban areas, you need to get creative with your space. This here is my side yard. I have a raised bed here in which I grow primarily cut flowers. Right now I have profuse blooms on my feverfew. I've got gorgeous ranunculus still in bloom. I have straw flower, scabiosa, calendula, larkspur, dusty miller, probably more in here. But I also have a number of containers here at the side of my house. This here is my largest of the rhubarb plants. It has its own container, and this is a used or an upcycled bamboo container, and I would say it's at least 100 gallons. It's very large. I also grow my potatoes in containers as they would take up too much real estate in my pottage. So I have probably about 6 or 7 potato containers here. I also grow my blueberries in containers, again in another upcycled bamboo container at the side of my house. I have a young pear tree here, more flowers, more feverfew, and sweet potatoes and lovage. Now that the seasons are changing, the garden is changing too, so make sure that you subscribe and follow along to see my next garden tour, because I know in only another couple of weeks the garden is going to be bursting. Thanks for watching. See you next time.